Let's pull the story up and dive into it. We have this from NBC News. Pentagon says Supreme Court's Roe ruling won't affect abortions on military facilities.
Right.
The military will continue providing abortions in cases of rape or incest or when the mother's life is at risk, a top Pentagon official said. Okay, Texas does not allow those exceptions, rape and incest, only the health of the mother,
right.
the life of the mother. So my question is, let's say you have a civilian doctor and a female Army, personnel.
Yeah.
She lives off base. She's married. Civilian doctor does not live on base,
yeah.
but he contracts the hospital on base. Or not even that. He doesn't need to be a civilian. Let's say he's active duty military as well, lives off base. They both, living under the jurisdiction of Texas, are subject to its laws and rules. If you are in the Army and you break the law, you face military court and civilian court. You get in trouble 2 times.
Yep.
So we know they have to obey the laws. Obviously, you can't have a person just be like, I'm in the military, so I can do what I want. So they go into the military base. She gets an abortion. The doctor performs it. There is now a record of that having occurred. And the U.S. government has said you cannot be criminally charged or penalized civilly for having this procedure, regardless of the state law.
Right.
But some of these states have actually, I don't know if they've passed them yet. They say if you aid and abet an abortion, you're guilty of a crime. So that means the doctor and the woman, regardless of where it's performed, coming back into that state could be arrested because they have committed the crime, according to that state.
Right.
What happens if the state then says, we don't care what the Fed said, and they arrest this contractor or 2 active duty military, and the military is like, you can't arrest them, it's not illegal, and they say, it is here.
Yeah.
What happens when states start arresting military personnel?
Well, I think there are 3 things there. One is what happens when the states start arresting them. The second part is a law that says you can't do something effectively somewhere else, somewhere outside of our jurisdiction, is that going to be able to hold up in court? And then also the question of specific to this, what if the feds just stop recording it? What if the feds just, it's, no questions asked, abortions being performed, and they just don't, have
I got one more for you.
Okay.
Woman's in the military. She is married. They get pregnant. The man says, I really think we should have this kid. And she says, I don't.
Yeah.
And he says, I refuse to allow the abortion to happen. I think it's wrong. I think it's murder. And she says, too bad. He knows where she goes. He knows who does it. And he reports it to the local state, to the state police. Maybe they're not married because I don't know if a husband would do that. But let's say there's she hooks up with a guy.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And the guy's just like, I refuse to allow you to get an abortion.
Yeah.
I reject this. So he reports her. Doesn't matter if the feds are tracking it or not. If that you have a witness come out and then the feds take the active duty person in, say, we're going to interrogate you as part of our investigation. And she says, yes, I did it. And it was legal. It was on federal jurisdiction. And they say, okay, stand up, hands behind your back. You're under arrest. You have a right to remain silent. She's like, what? How is this happening? And they say, the law states if you aid and abet an abortion and go somewhere, it doesn't matter where it took place. I don't know if Texas has that ruling, but the general idea, I suppose, is it's not necessarily the same thing as, I think it might have been like Iowa or Idaho, where they said if you aid and abet. But if this military base is in Texas, the feds might be like, it happened on federal jurisdiction. Texas might still say, you're still in Texas. You still live under our laws. And regardless of that, let's just say letter of the law. No, they can't do that, right? Okay, well, according to James Buchanan, states weren't legally allowed to secede either. Didn't stop them.
Right.
So what happens if you get a Christian conservative prosecutor in Texas who says we have made it illegal to kill babies, and then you went into a military base and killed a baby? I'm gonna charge you, and I'm gonna take it all the way to the top because I believe it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what the federal government thinks they're protected on, and then what? The feds are going to be like trying to pull their people out of the jail, filing lawsuits. Yeah. Does it end in a legal battle, or does it end with the state police surrounding federal law enforcement vehicles at gunpoint and saying you're under arrest? What happens then if a federal agent tries getting the woman out, even though she's a known fugitive of state law? Is it possible Texas then says you've aided and abetted a fugitive? I don't care if you're doing it. The feds have no authority to undermine our laws. Think about it this way. Let's say a federal agent, let's say a female member of the Army murders a kid, hits him with a car, and it was on duty, driving a military vehicle, and the kid dies. And the state says, you were driving recklessly. We have a witness. You're under arrest. And then the military says, no, she was active duty. It was an accident. We reject those charges. What happens?
There, I mean, that's obvious, right? Like if it's on, in the jurisdiction of the state. Where this gets mucky would be if she did it on a military base and the military said, we're handling it, and the state said, no, it's in our jurisdiction. My understanding of that is that wouldn't be their jurisdiction.
All right, let's try this.
But we could also talk about, there could be a prosecutor who says, reality of power, stop me.
Right.
The court said I can't do it. The Supreme Court said I can't do it. I'm doing it anyway. Come and stop me.
Here, so just throwing hypotheticals out there. I'm not saying any of these are like highly probable. Pizza delivery guy. He drives on a base and they're like, what are you here for? And he's like, I got to deliver a pizza to base housing. And they're like, all right, we're going to search your vehicle and then you're cool. And then he's driving in, and then while on duty as an MP, she crashes into him, flips him over, killing him. And she was not paying attention, and she made an illegal lane change. Yeah. And the military says, we're not prosecuting this. We think it was an accident. And then the family of the driver says, he's a civilian who's in our state. We reject this. We want him charged.
Yeah.
I think it's highly likely in most circumstances in that case, they'd be like, it happened on a military base. The feds are going to have to handle it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe there's already some long-standing precedent. Both, I'm not even sure if it had to be judicial. I think that's understanding that on military base, that is federal land. That's not state jurisdiction.
So where the question arises then, where this starts to become more akin to the Civil War, is women going to military bases when they're not active duty to get abortions.
Yep.
The state knows they're doing it.
Yep.
Does the state say to the federal government, stop breaking our laws or else? And the feds say, it's our military base, you can't do anything about it. And they say, we will send in state police to arrest these women. The moment they step foot out, they're getting arrested because you are... if people start going on a military basis, they say, and again, I know this is a bit of a stretch, they're going to be providing abortions. I think it's typically only done for military personnel on military bases. But there are people on the left arguing for effectively
making them sanctuaries for abortion.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So my suggestion is this the direction we may be going?
Oh, very much. I mean, you want to talk about a culture war. There is a gap between those who see this as, a woman exerting autonomy over her body against a clump of cells, a parasite, and other people are saying, no, this is a murder of a baby every bit as much as if the woman were to turn around and murder someone standing next to him. And it's hard to have a compromise between that, right? And so if this plays out and both sides are willing to go to the trenches over it, this could lead to what we're talking about, or even worse, on just even this specific subject.
You made a good point, reality of power. That they can say whatever they want. It matters in who's willing to do something about it.
Yep.
And so I suppose the issue is, let's take the moral issue of today with abortion and go back in time to slavery. So let's say in the North, they said, we've abolished slavery. And then let's say it's in Pennsylvania. And so it's right on the border of Maryland, which was a slave state. And then you have a military base there that has slaves, and they're like, we don't care that you abolished this. We're keeping the slaves.
We're just going to do it anyway.
John Brown would probably lose it over that, right? The abolitionist would be like, don't care.
Yep.
You can't do this. It's wrong.
Yep.
So what I fear is, it's just crazy to me that Texas would come out so strong. No exceptions for rape or incest. And the military says, we will. Like, we're getting to that point where you just need to imagine it this way. If abortion is murder, at least in the eyes of the Christian conservatives, what they're basically saying is, we will keep killing children and you can't stop us.
Right.
Yeah, at a certain point, law enforcement's going to be like, we have codified this in our law that you cannot do this, and you are doing it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not murder. I don't care what people believe. It's not murder. Let's keep that in mind.
Why is it not murder?
It's not illegal.
In Texas, it is.
Well, in certain places, if you do it in the wrong spot, you might consider it a murder. I don't know if they
are you saying from a legal standpoint?
From a legal standpoint, murder is a legal term. It's killing. Right. It's definitely a form of homicide. I mean, it depends on if you consider the lump of cells a human.
Right.
At what point are they legally human?
It is illegal in Texas. It is the unlawful killing of a person in Texas.
Is it a person from inception? Did they codify that?
All I know is that abortions are illegal in Texas.
Yeah, I don't think they've codified it as murder. They've just as a criminal action.
Okay,
so it's still not I don't. Murder. Yeah, because otherwise it would be it wouldn't just be going after providers. It would be if you have an abortion, if you're a pregnant woman that has an abortion, you can face the death penalty, for example. I mean that would be the level that would be at.
Could you imagine if the pro-life movement took it to the place where they were killing mothers or for having abortions?
But you talk to Seamus even. He's very pro-life. He wants a national ban, and even he doesn't want to go there.
Right.
He views it more as the doctors shouldn't be allowed to perform these things. He's not going to penalize the mothers who are, in these positions or whatever.
What really bothers me is the idea that a state would prosecute someone for something they did outside of the jurisdiction. I don't understand.
That bothers me the most out of all of this. And I mean, we could talk about my concerns about how a war on abortion is just as successful as the war on drugs, war on terror, war on poverty, everything else. What happens when you get government involved as a regulatory body on something like pregnancy and the harm that comes from that. But just inside of this, the biggest thing I'm concerned of on a broader scale is the idea of, oh, you did that over there? Yeah, no, don't ever come back or we'll arrest you. Like that. I mean, take that to its logical conclusion.
It doesn't sound. Are there any other instances in the United States?
I don't believe that would be held up. There may be some rule, but as far as I can think, I can't think of an instance where because I mean, you take that to its logical conclusion. It's not just within the U.S. That could mean someone that goes to the Netherlands and tries ketamine or tries cannabis or something, and then comes back to a state where it's illegal, gets arrested because they put it on social media that they did it. And then you could even get more obscure with things that like violate a bylaw in your county, but they don't violate a bylaw where you were. The enforcement mechanism there would be horrific, and it needs to be, if there's going to be a semblance of rule of law, it's the jurisdiction you are under. Those are the rules that you are under, not the crimes you committed and then come back, or the things you did there that were perfectly fine and legal, but then you come back home or wherever you reside, and now it's illegal there, so now you're going to be charged for a crime. I mean, imagine, it's hard enough to figure out what's illegal in a given place where you are, to try to figure out what's illegal any place you would then go after that. Yeah, I can't see that being held up. Then that would be a major problem. And like Tim said, we don't even know if Texas has that, but there are other states that have tried implementing that for abortion and some of these other things. And it's politicians, honestly, virtue signaling to their base. Not only can't they do it here, they can't do it anywhere. Well, that's probably not going to be held up. And would you want that to be held up? Like, would you want the government to tell you what you can and can't do when you aren't even under their jurisdiction? I certainly wouldn't.
No, not at all.
Ian, I know you said abortion is not murder from the legal standpoint of the word, but then what do you make of murdering a pregnant woman being considered double homicide?
Oh, it's homicide. It's just not murder. Homicide is the killing of a human. Murder is the illegal. I don't know. They're different definitions. So, like, murder is a form of homicide.
Okay.
Right,
I don't know if the abortion bans are considering abortion homicide, though.
They're not. In Louisiana, I think they tried to codify that, and then it got bumped right back.
No one wants to do that. Yeah, no one wants to touch that. Yeah.
Mary's point was in I think Scott Peterson. I think Seamus brought that up. I don't know if it's Peterson case.
Yes. Yeah.
When
he got charged with double homicide because he killed Lacey Peterson and their unborn child.
Right. So there are jurisdictions where if a woman is pregnant, you punch her in the stomach, you can get charged with murder.
Yep.
Actual murder.
Yeah. Actual, like,
if the mother survives,
or manslaughter.
But
you kill the baby.
She miscarries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, you can get charged with murdering the baby if you punch her in the gut, right?
Murder, manslaughter. It depends on. Right. I believe it's state by state, because I know in California, and a lot of people thought how ironic California, which is when it comes to abortion the most liberal on that subject. But when Scott Peterson killed Lacey Peterson and her child, he was charged with double homicide, with double murder.
Very strange for California. They're like, no. He did kill her, but the rest was a clump of cells.
It comes down to the argument that, well, it all depends on the mother's intent because she wanted to keep the unborn child. No, I didn't say it made sense.
This is it.
I didn't say it was consistent.
Age of the will, where your will equates to the truth of the matter.
Yeah, no, if it comes down to, if a state, because really it comes down to personhood, right? Like if a state has decided that personhood doesn't begin until birth or some point after conception, and this fetus, unborn child, whatever you want to call it, hasn't reached that point of personhood yet, well, then that would mean whether it was through an abortion or through someone killing the mother or attacking the mother and the fetus, unborn person dies, it would either always be homicide or a crime, or it would always not be that because that thing doesn't have personhood.
Yeah, I would think there's a value to the intricacy of killing an unborn fetus that maybe isn't considered a person. That's different than just destroying a cell block, but also maybe not as horrific as like a murder charge.
Yeah. It's some kind of a crime was committed, but not necessarily murder. If you're going the route of saying that it doesn't have personhood yet.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.